These two charts have been shared a lot since Election Day. Inevitably, they have been shared a lot by Trump supporters claiming voter fraud. The Wisconsin chart, even in some minds, has actually shown that people just stopped counting Trump ballots altogether and kept counting Biden's. It hopefully isn't too hard to see what has happened here. Chart formatting is clearly to blame. The blue line hides the red line because both vote tallies actually spiked together. If Trump votes didn't rise too, the line would have in fact been visible on the other side of this blue spike. Clearly, more votes did go to Biden. Postal votes in this region were absolutely expected to. Sharp simultaneous spikes are perfectly normal, as results are reported in bulk. They are not suspicious. In some cases, Trump's red line saw a sharper vertical spike than Biden's, and people pointed this out too. But again, any such examples show both lines spiking together, albeit one more than the other. Michigan, however, sticks out as a sore thumb of a chart. Blue line up sharply, no clear movement in red line. Now, many believe this chart has also been debunked. I should point out that I'm neutral on the politics of this election, but I do absolutely believe fact-checking is specifically required for this chart. The chart was shared along with two screenshots of a map. Comparing the two maps, they showed that Biden's vote count increased significantly, while Trump's did not move. It is these map screenshots that have since been debunked. The map was even highlighted by Trump himself after it was shared by Texas Republican Matt Mackowiak. Matt later apologized for sharing misinformation. The Detroit Free Press and also New York Times were the ones to debunk this map. They pointed out that a typo was spotted in the results for Shiawassee County. Props go to the eagle-eyed Jonathon Grant, who spotted that 153,710 votes should have in fact been 15,371. A simple data entry issue. They confirmed the typo had been corrected, and the timestamping of the map screenshots show they were indeed impacted by the now fixed typo. So that's the maps absolutely 100% debunked. The second part of Detroit Free Press's article also claims to debunk the original chart, providing a new correct one. As far as I can see, it does not do so. Indeed, taking the two charts and laying them one over the other, you can see that the charts actually use the very same data. The difference is that the Detroit Free Press has chosen to plot the vote totals only at hourly intervals, such that one hourly interval between 6 and 7 conceals the specific data spike. Whether the original FiveThirtyEight chart is or isn't impacted by the typo, the underlying data is clearly at least as accurate and correct as Detroit Free Press's new correct chart. But you would also think that an amended typo would see the spike correcting itself and the line resuming along its original path, and this doesn't happen. Furthermore, this data is to 9:03 AM on the 4th of November, well after the typo was amended. Going back to the original Twitter post, this screenshot shows the corrected numbers for Shiawassee County, with the updated time as 4:18 AM. This Shiawassee County data was therefore accurate and correct a good 2.5 hours before the FiveThirtyEight chart shows its spike. The specific update post on FiveThirtyEight's website refers to a tranche of votes coming in at 6:45 AM too, which appear to relate to Wayne County and not Shiawassee County anyway. So, the line chart and its spike are related to an altogether different time and place. This spike, therefore, does not seem to have anything to do with the typo that has been discussed. The typo which absolutely does debunk the map screenshots. The spike on the original chart does still need some separate explanation. Based on the results of this chart analysis application that extracts estimations of the raw data, over 95% of a large tranche of some 160,000 votes were for Biden. That's 154,000 out of the 161 in total. Regardless of your political allegiance, this does still seem extremely one-sided in terms of the voting results in this specific batch, And as we have now confirmed, this is indeed real, correct data, not an erroneous spike caused by the typo. I think this does require some further investigation and clarification. Trump followers are no doubt keen to claim voter fraud, and in this very specific case, their claims could appear more justified in the absence of a logical explanation being provided. To demonstrate this, let me give some context to just how extreme the results of this specific batch are. First of all, Biden voters will be keen to point out that Wayne County is a heavily Democratic region within Michigan. Looking at Wayne County's aggregate results, this is clear to see. Ignoring the votes cast to other parties, we see a 74 to 26% split in favour of Biden. Biden fans will then point out that postal votes within Wayne County will be even more heavily skewed to Biden accordingly, given he encouraged this method of voting and Trump did not. Splitting out Wayne County's postal votes from the aggregate numbers, this thinking is again proved correct. The 360,000 odd postal votes show a bigger skew to Biden, an 80-20% split this time. So things add up and appear pretty logical up until this point. We can dig deeper. We know how many of the 360,000 odd Wayne County postal votes were for Biden and how many for Trump. But we also know this specific 6:45 a.m. batch of postal ballots contained over 160,000 votes. The estimate suggests 154,000 for Biden and 7,000 for Trump. Simply subtracting these specific tallies from the totals recorded for the respective candidates, we can back out the Biden-Trump split of the other postal ballots in the county. In this group, we see a much more balanced 68-32% split. We've ended up with two similar-sized groups of postal votes from Wayne County, essentially Detroit. We've controlled for the postal voting effect, and we're really just looking at one city's results within this subset. Comparing two like-for-like clusters, there is no reason to expect significant deviation between the Biden skew seen in these two sets of Detroit postal votes. If we assumed that the postal voting population of Wayne County did vote 80% Biden and 20% Trump, and if we twice sampled this population completely at random and at this scale, there is no statistical chance that the two groups of results could yield such vastly different distributions in the Trump-Biden split. Assuming unbiased random sampling, the variation that could be expected would be 20 basis points, or 0.1%, not, as would be required in this instance, 15%. Whatever the true vote split of the postal voting population in Detroit, random samples of this size should not differ to the stark extent that they do here. Therefore, we can only conclude that randomness has not applied here, and that there is a specific reason for the difference that we see. If a key explanatory factor is at play here and causing the difference, it absolutely needs highlighting. Why did one 6:45 a.m. batch of results differ so significantly from the rest of the postal voting in the same city? Without the logical explanation, the results of the 6:45 a.m. batch do indeed look extreme and odd. Indeed, FiveThirtyEight had to recently follow up on a tweet where they'd said 23,000 Pennsylvania votes have come in, all for Biden. They updated us to clarify that in some cases, results for a candidate were sometimes reported to them one at a time. Whether or not this answers the claims of fraud in Pennsylvania that the original tweet excited, this cannot be the explanation for these quirky 6:45 a.m. results. Trump vote did get reported in this batch. He received 7,000 odd votes. It's just that Biden got 154,000. I am not alleging widespread, maliciously masterminded fraud, as many Trump supporters are. Going into this election, Trump and his administration made clear attempts to undermine the legitimacy of the postal voting process and allege fraud before the election had even started. This has not helped in stirring conspiracy theories and tension between voters. There is no doubt misinformation of this nature spreading wildly since the election. I can recognise this, and at the same time, I can highlight that this data appears odd at first glance, odd but not erroneous on further investigation, and I'm saying that this specific case requires further clarity, explanation, or mere debunking.